dinner. They love to hear that stuff. I don't know if he actually did or not. I mean, for a high school kid to pay for 5 big dudes dinner, I don't know, but maybe someone helped.
Yeah, maybe bake them some cookies or something at
Yeah,
least.
that works. Yeah.
Well, you talk about the running game for the Vikings. The running game, somewhat surprisingly, has been a major asset for the Norwin Knights, and they got a big victory against Kiski area. That's another great Westmoreland County matchup because the Cavaliers were riding high after a very impressive win in week 0. So we figured it'd be a good game. It certainly lived up to that. And the Knights 33-21 victors at Kiski area. And there's, again, the running game. Not that Tristan Tavares isn't doing a fine job passing it, but by and large, they're getting it done on the ground and with some timely defense. They did give up a couple of third quarter touchdowns on long passes, but other than that, I think pretty solid defensively as well. So Mike Brown certainly has this team playing a style of football that I think can be sustainable in terms of success.
Yeah, I love it. And as a new head coach going into a program that hasn't had success running the ball or stopping the run very much over the years, obviously he identified that, came in, and so far this season has cleaned it up, Sean. I mean, you look at the game, you mentioned the rushing attack. 4 different Norwin Knights scored rushing touchdowns in that game. Rotroff had 1, Sinchak had 1, Huss, and then Tavares, the quarterback, had 2. And to me, I mean, Mike didn't necessarily say it this way, but that helps take pressure off of Tavares, where he, can throw the football a little bit more, without worrying about always, getting first downs and being one-dimensional and that kind of thing. I mean, I think that takes the pressure off of him with the way that, they can run the football. And they've shown that so far this season, just a big-time performance on the ground. And, you look at Kiski area, too. I was impressed by the Cavaliers. Obviously, they started the season with a big win, a dominating, kind of victory with Cusick leading the way. He was shut down a little bit by Norwin, which was impressive. But you look at Carson Heinley put up some good numbers, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Shirley had a couple of touchdown catches. So I think that Kiski, obviously you want to win the game, but they can take something good away from the loss. And if you're Norwin, heck, you're riding high 2-0 going into a big non-conference matchup with the Latrobe Wildcats this week.
Yeah, and I think it maybe answers one of the questions is who could be the go-to receiver for the Cavaliers after they graduated Isaiah Gonzalez and Bart Martin, 2 really good ones, and Avon Shirley might be the guy. Yeah, Norwin and Greater Latrobe is going to have some real hype around that game. So congrats to the Knights. They are now 2-0. We'll get to some other 2-0 teams momentarily, but a game that you were at, Flick, was another Westmoreland County clash. We've talked about a lot of them so far. Hempfield area at home against Franklin Regional. The Panthers were the team that was favored going in. They did win somewhat convincingly. I think, one, they're really looking good right now, but the biggest takeaway for me was the fact that Dom Dietrich played the game, because we didn't know about that. That was cut tight to the vest. Not only did he play, he, I think, probably had maybe the best game he's ever had at the varsity level.
I can't say enough about the kid. And full transparency, we're on the pregame. Jack Ridenauer, Mark Katarski are doing their thing. It's about, I don't know, maybe 6:40 or so. We're getting ready to go into our pre-recorded coaches interviews. And our pal Bill Beckner from the Trib comes into the press box, taps me on the back immediately. And I said, "What's up, Bill?" He said, "He's playing." I said, "Wait, Dom Dietrich's playing?" He said, "Yeah, he's playing. Look." And I looked out there and he had a helmet on, and we didn't notice it initially because we were kind of thinking that he wasn't cleared. And so, you go through the whole process of kind of finding out the backstory, and Dom was cleared on Wednesday and played on Friday, and he threw for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. And so happy for the kid. We had a chance to talk with him, Sean, during our camp previews. And it's always interesting what the guys say off the air, maybe even more, than on the air. He kind of talked about the whole process and what he went through and, with the myocarditis and everything. And the fact that he really only went through 2 full practices, and who knows, on Thursday, that's really a walkthrough day. So maybe he went through basically 1 full practice and threw for 300 yards in a high school varsity football game against a good Franklin Regional team. I think says a lot about him, and it has to get Nick Kiefer excited to see how much more he's going to get better and better throughout the season, especially once he gets his cardio up where he wants it. But that's ridiculous. I mean, when we went to camp, he was throwing, but he wasn't running at all. He wasn't allowed to run. He would throw, and that was it. And still, he was able to do what he did despite only going through one, maybe two full practices.
Yeah, really incredible. And unfortunately for the Spartans, it wasn't enough. They lost 49-26 to the Panthers. And Kyle Dupill had another big game
He
on the
was a
ground. I
beast,
know.
Sean. I mean, the kid ran with a purpose. And you look at the numbers, I think he just had over a little over 100 yards. I mean, they weren't like eye-popping, but every run that he had was purposeful. Near the goal line, inside the red zone, spinning off tacklers. I mean, he was really good in the game.
Jameer Austin made his impact felt as well. We'll hear from him a little bit later. He's a guy who has D1 offers at this point. So the Panthers are, right there with teams like Greater Latrobe and Penn Trafford, I think, in that Big East Conference. And of course, we know Gateway and Woodland Hills, but they have done everything so far that I think that Coach Getsy could have asked for through two games. Very impressive victory for FR. But again, congrats to Dom Dietrich. I'm sure he is just so glad to be back out there, and hopefully he'll be able to lead his team to some victories coming up. And I mentioned that the Knights, the Panthers, they're not the only 2-0 teams in Westmoreland County. I think Franklin Regional, maybe not a shock that they're 2-0. Norwin, probably a little surprising. It might be downright stunning that two of the teams that struggled the most last year are 2-0, and that's the Greensburg Salem Golden Lions, and we're going to hear from their head coach, Ty George, and Benny Hoffer's Yawk Cougars. They each have already matched last year's win total. Greensburg Salem won just 2 games. Yawk won just 2 games. They've done so pretty impressively, and I think both these teams will have a chance to actually go to 3-0 with their opponents this upcoming week. The Cougars 21-9 against Charleroi. They got all their scoring in the second half. Didn't really do a lot offensively, but Raiden Kuroda was pretty effective, especially on the ground. Greensburg Salem, conversely, they did a lot offensively. Very impressive. 43-14 against Ligonier Valley, and they really had the running game going. Kai Bruno went off for nearly 150 yards. So two teams that really needed bounce back years and probably needed the confidence that comes with 2-0 starts, really significant, I think, in their maturation as programs.
Yeah, you kind of took the words out of my mouth, that confidence, just getting 2 wins under your belt, no matter who it comes against. And in Greensburg Salem's side of things, they go up against the Ligonier Valley team that came in with a lot of confidence themselves, momentum after beating Derry in the first game of the season, and they kind of squashed the Rams 43-14. You mentioned Kai Bruno ran all over the place. A lot of good things happening for the Golden Lions. Raiden Kuroda for Yawk continues again where he kind of picked up where he left off last year, to be honest. And obviously they need some other contributors as well, and I think they've been getting those too. So it's really interesting, too. These two teams are in the Interstate Conference. You have Mount Pleasant, who, I know they played a couple of teams smaller than them, but 2 really good teams in Jeannette and Greensburg Central Catholic. They probably feel they should be 2-0. They kind of let that game against Jeannette get away from them. Elizabeth Forward's obviously still, the king of the castle in the conference. And then you look at Derry bouncing back with a big win. They may have found something after they beat Freeport. So this is going to be a very, very interesting interstate conference this year. And especially, when you look at what Greensburg, Salem, and Yawk are doing, I'm really excited for it for sure.
And another 2-0 team from that conference, the Southmoreland Scotties.
Well, for sure, yeah. I don't want to forget Tim Bukowski's crew.
Yeah, they have big-time aspirations this season. So congrats, Golden Lions, Cougars, and everyone else who is victorious.
And by the way, Sean, 2 of the best guys you will ever meet. Ty George and Benny Hoffer. Those 2 are certainly tops in our book. Ty, a really good kid that we've followed for a long time as a player and now as a coach. And Benny, always very welcoming when we head to Yawk, whether it be for football or baseball. So nice to see those guys having success.
Yeah, I even see him at the basketball games there at Yawk High School as well. So he's involved. All Cougars athletics. Benny Hoffer, a big-time supporter. Well, that's going to do it for this opening segment and the biggest takeaways from week 1. When we take a break, we'll come back. Of course, that's what you do after you take a break. When we do come back, we will highlight all of the scores from week 1 of the high school football season. We'll also look at the top performers. And a little bit later, plays of the week, interviews with Ty George and Kymon'e Brown, and a week 2 preview. That's all upcoming as we continue right here on the Westmoreland Sports Network's Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
Get to Mike Hamlin Hyundai during the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Drive the new 2024 Hyundai Elantra SEL or Tucson SE with 1.99% financing for up to 60 months. All vehicles are backed by the Mike Hamlin Advantage oil changes for life.
Play It Again Sports in Greensburg is your locally owned and operated sporting goods store. We set ourselves apart by offering a wide variety of both new and used equipment at competitive prices. Located in the Greengate East Plaza, below Walmart. Play It Again Sports' knowledgeable staff will help you and your family prepare for every athletic season. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, or trade, we are here as your one-stop shop. At Play It Again Sports in Greensburg, everybody plays.
We roll along here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron each and every Wednesday, 7 p.m. on the Westmoreland Sports Network. You better be tuning in, whether it be live or even archived. You can go back and watch it on our website, westmorelandsports.com. We already talked about the biggest stories from week one. Let's run down the rest of the scores from the Westmoreland County slate of things last Friday. Some of these games were already mentioned, including Franklin Regional 49, Hempfield area 26. Of course, you can go back and watch that broadcast to see a Westmoreland County clash that went in favor of the Panthers. Derry area gets a much-needed win as the Trojans prevail 21-7 against Freeport area. You can go back and watch that game as well. Norwin 33, Kiski area 21. We talked about that in our open. Penn Trafford, much like Derry area, gets a win, a much-needed one with a bounce-back effort. It is Warriors 28, Blue Devils 7. Good, impressive performance by Johnny Louver, the PT quarterback in that game. Jeannette, prolific as always offensively. Kymon'e Brown and Jace Powell, a big part of that, as they win 42-28 against Apollo Ridge. Greater Latrobe was tested, but ultimately passed the test against the Plum Mustangs. A 32-18 victory for the Wildcats. They now 2-0 heading into that big matchup against Norwin. Greensburg, Salem, we mentioned this. They are 2-0 as well. They knock off Ligonier Valley 43-14 in favor of the Golden Lions. It came down to the wire. It actually required not one, but two overtimes, but the Mount Pleasant area Vikings outlasted the Greensburg Central Catholic Centurions 36-35 as they get their first victory. GCC falls to 1-1. Southmoreland puts up 49 points in a victory over East Allegheny, 49-14 Scotties over the Wildcats. Shadyside Academy explodes against Burrell 42-7 in favor of the Bulldogs over the Buccaneers. By the way, Burrell has been without Sean Liotta for the first two games, so he will be back as their head coach. He has completed his two-game suspension that came from their playoff loss last year.
I think his beard has probably gotten a lot longer since the last time we saw him.
You know what? That's a new look for him. We got to see him at the
JW
show.
Loved it.
Yes, he looks. I mean, if you want to kind of give a little bit of intimidation before the kickoff, that's one way to do it, I guess, right?
Or intimidate your own team when things are going well in practice and things like that. So,
hey, I think it works for him so far, at least.
It does.
Works for him.
I like it.
People are superstitious, so if they struggle for a little while, maybe it goes, but who knows? We'll see. It's not quite the same as a playoff beard, I guess. The back to football. The Yacht Cougars score a 21-9 victory in the Battle of the Cougars as they defeat Charleroi. Riverview 38, Valley 36. Monessen wins 62-6 against West Green. And a game that was the most anticipated of them all in Westmoreland County, probably in the entire WPIAL, officially never occurred. Bell Vernon area and Aliquippa canceled. No makeup. They played almost a full quarter. The Quips were up double digits in that game. There was a lightning delay. They came back and played briefly, had another lightning delay. It was going to continue. The forecast was ominous. And because it was a long bus ride for the Leopards to Heinz Field, which is the name of the home field for the Quips now, they basically realized it wasn't going to make sense to go back there Saturday morning to try to play and continue that game. So ultimately they cancel it. It's really disappointing, but it's also, I guess, understandable. And the weird quirk flick is both of these teams now officially are 0-0. They did not play in week 0, and their week 1 game doesn't count for anything.
Yeah, it's going to be a little confusing now, talking about their record, especially when you get to later on in the season. You're going to have to try to remember, like, wait a second, why did they play one less game than other Oh, that's right. That's right. They had the game postponed. And it was kind of funny. I saw people on Twitter on Friday night like suggesting that maybe they could resume the game. Like, how could that be possible? I don't think that they would do that in a non-conference game, on a Saturday. Now, if it's a conference game, that's when things become interesting. You wonder if it was a conference game, if they would have waited longer or they would have then resumed it on Saturday. But non-conference,
I think Vince Sortino said that a month from now, when these are conference games, they will have to figure out a way, which probably would mean early Saturday wrapping up the game.
Yeah, that's what I would think too. But for non-conference game, I don't think that's, and it's a shame, certainly, for sure. But yeah, you're waiting around that long. You've already played. What was it? When did they actually stop it?
I think it was just under 2 minutes left in the first quarter.
So you've played like a quarter, and then if you're Bell Vernon, you're going to bus back home and then come back early Saturday morning after all that for a non-conference game. Just didn't really make sense, but certainly unfortunate. I mean, that was, really probably the biggest game in the WPIAL on Friday night, and never took place.
Yeah, and it wasn't the only one that had to deal with weather issues. Now, of course, that was in Beaver County. I think Westmoreland County, for the most part, was okay weather-wise. But, really tough break. Now, the question I have is, does this really set back the Leopards? Because I'm sure a guy like Matt Humbert wanted that film, even if they ultimately lost, because let's be honest, Aliquippa was going to be favored. They're favored against just about everyone, but especially when they play on their home field. But at least you would get those game reps for a lot of guys who are, breaking in as starters for the first time, and then the invaluable film review that comes after that, because coaches always say the biggest improvement is after the first week, from week 1 to week 2 games. Well, the Leopards won't have that opportunity really until after this week's game. So they're going to be kind of 2 weeks behind most of the opposition.
Well, and it does make it interesting because Bell Vernon's one of the lone teams that does not play a week 0 game. So you throw that in there too. I mean, not only did they not play week 0, week 1, they only played a quarter. So I don't know. We'll see if it slows. And Sean, you have to mention too, there's a lot of new faces that are in different positions for Bell Vernon. So, they're still trying to break in some new faces as well. They'll be okay. I think they'll be fine. But, that certainly is a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, and the next couple weeks are not going to be cupcakes for them either. So that they don't have to worry about not playing top-notch competition because Aliquippa game didn't happen. They're going to play Central Valley and McKeesport. So they'll be playing some really, really good teams. Well, let's look at the top performers from week 1, the top passers, rushers, and receivers in the entire WPIAL, and then specifically in Westmoreland County as well. The top passer from week 1 comes from the Laurel Spartans' Luca Santini, who goes 18 of 32, throwing for 337 yards. And I should note, because every now and then we have some discrepancies, stats at the high school level are hardly official. So you might get one newspaper that has a specific number. You might see a different number elsewhere. These are ballparks, so we're doing our best in terms of trying to get these right numbers. Some the teams provide themselves as well. The top passer in Westmoreland County, it was his return to action, Dom Dietrich of Hempfield area, 18 of 38 for 302 yards. Carson Heinley of Kiski area, 13 of 17 for 236 in their loss. Samir Crosby, 218 yards through the air for Greensburg Central Catholic. Johnny Louver, a much-needed effort for him after he had struggled in week 0. The PT quarterback, 17 of 26 for 217 yards. And freshman phenom Anthony Smith of the Southmoreland Scotties throws for 189 yards in their victory. We now advance to the top rushers, and a familiar name if you followed Steel Valley at all over the last couple of years. He has been an absolute boss. 327 yards for Donald Barksdale, just a complete dominant force for the Ironmen. The top rusher in Westmoreland County actually is a guy who plays a lot of quarterback. That's Kymon'e Brown, who we're going to hear from in a little bit. 162 yards for the Jeannette Jayhawks standout. Greater Latrobe's Alex Tash, committed to Penn State, gets 158 yards on the ground in the Wildcats' victory. Raiden Kuroda, the Cougars quarterback, 146 yards, 4 yards. Kai Bruno with a big effort for Greensburg Salem goes for 142. And Nicholas Heekins of Valley, 140 yards on the ground for the Vikings.
Did you get together with Tash, by the way, to watch your Nittany Lions defeat the Mountaineers of West Virginia? Did you guys watch the game together?
No, we did not watch that game together, believe it or not.
I figured since Seton Hill wasn't playing on Saturday, you guys might go out and watch the game together.
Yeah, how about Seton Hill consecutive Thursday games? They're really freeing up my Saturdays to watch Penn State early season.
Right. Mine too, although I had a birthday party to go to when I finally had an opportunity to watch college football. But because of the delay, I actually did get to watch most of the games.
Yeah, it was like 6.5 hours from start to finish. Sure. So you could have, spent most of your day elsewhere and still caught the start and the end. It was a big night in the WPIL, and in particular Westmoreland County, for receivers on Friday. Nate McKnight of Newcastle, 182 yards for the Red Hurricanes on 6 receptions. But 5 players in Westmoreland County all cracked 100 yards receiving. Zion Farron of Valley, 6 receptions, 139 yards. Jack Weissar of Penn Trafford had 10 grabs for 130 yards. Landon Honick of Greensburg Central Catholic, 6 receptions for 129. Avon Shirley of Kiski area, we mentioned him earlier, had 128 yards receiving. And Elliot Primus of Southmoreland, 6 grabs for 127. Big numbers in week 1 of the high school football season, especially here in Westmoreland County. Have a feeling that you might see some of those names again in our next segment, because coming up, it will be Plays of the Week. It is a jam-packed episode in addition of that, so you want to stick around. That's upcoming, and then a little bit later on, Ty George of Greensburg, Salem, Kymon'e Brown of Jeannette, and our Week 2 preview. That's coming up next as we continue right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
I feel like it's definitely very important, like, for high school, because a lot of kids, get peer pressured into drinking and doing drugs. So, like, doing the events, like, in a school setting, I feel like definitely, like, try to prevent kids from, like, going to, like, parties and drinking and driving and doing drugs and being peer pressured.
We just want to, talk about the dangers of the substance abuse in our community, and we want to help be a part of stopping that.
At Smale Kia, we know that winning takes hard work, dedication, and a commitment to excellence. By sponsoring Shining Stars, we'll select 2 teams each season to help fund their booster programs. Rewarding their hard work, athletic progress, and community service is an investment we're proud to make. Congrats to our previous Shining Star winners, and good luck. And speaking of excellence, lease a 2024 Kia Forte LXS for only $99 a month from Smale Kia.
We continue here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron each and every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Sean and Dan, we ran down all the scores, all the big takeaways from week 1. And you know what time it is now, Dan?
It's time for Plays of the Week, baby. Let's do it.
You got it. Let's do it. Plays of the Week. We got 5 to get to, so we waste no time. We begin with Hempfield area as Dom Dietrich's return to the field from a health scare was a big story on Friday. And the Spartans quarterback showed no signs of rust. He displayed his big arm early, hooking up with Nick Marcus to put Hempfield on the board, with Jack Ridenauer and Marcus Katarski captioning the play.
Third and 12. Spartans just trying to orchestrate some offense. Drops back, feeling pressure, heaves down the middle of the field, he's got a man, it's caught! Off to the races, is into the end zone! Nicholas Marcus gets the Spartans on the board, it's 7-6. They had nibbled there on the first drive, just weren't able to hit it. Coach Kiefer's staff came back to it, great execution all the way around. Watch here at Dietrich with enough time, get set, just perfect timing and touch on that pass. Wow, what a great one. Hit him in stride.
Yeah, Dom Dietrich showing no rust, absolutely none. Actually, he did overthrow a receiver not long before that. They could have went for a touchdown. It was that close. That one he dropped right out of the sky, man. That was unbelievable. And what do you think was going through his mind, Sean, when, he dropped the dime in there? First touchdown. He probably didn't know if he was ever going to play again, right? You never know. A lot of, doubts going through your mind or going through something that serious. That was an awesome moment.
Yeah, I mean, to put it in perspective much differently, but I know I and many other broadcasters and anyone that was out of work when COVID hit, we all kind of said, like, we will not take for granted being able to do what we love to do. So you get back at it after, months away. And I can only imagine for him, like you said, maybe wondering if he would ever play again. So that had to be awesome for him. And the first of many, many touchdowns. Of course, he threw a couple more in that game. And I'm sure he's going to throw many more this season as well. We stay in that same game for Plays of the Week. On the Franklin Regional side of things, the Panthers seem to always have a response, including a big special teams play by Jameer Austin just seconds after the Spartans scored, with once again Jack and Marvin on the call.
Infield area finds the end zone after Dom Dietrich finds Steinbeiser. Back on WSN, here's Austin with a burst of speed off to the races, zigzags, and there he goes! What a response by the Panthers! Jameer Austin dancing his way to a touchdown, and it's 27-13. Oh, poor Hemphill. Just when they had some momentum. We had saw this on the previous kickoff after the score that he was close to breaking it. And remember, on the opening kickoff, they did a great job just dropping it in front. But once he got through the initial hole, watch here. I think that's that Bennett or Austin. And that is it. Made a little move here on the kicker. And look at that breakaway speed for the touchdown.
Yeah, that was a massive play in the game, Sean, because Hempfield had just put a really good drive together and cut down the deficit until Jameer Austin, the ensuing kickoff, returns it for a touchdown. And Lance Getsy was kind of raving about him during camp, saying this kid really has an opportunity to contribute for us this year. He certainly did in the game. And not just him, great seam. Good job by the entire special teams kickoff right there, because he busted through that seam and he was absolutely gone. But you got to get that seam first, and all 11 guys really did their job at the play.
Yeah, Austin's making some headlines. He already has an offer from Purdue. I saw there was a story written about him. I think it might have been Pittsburgh Sports Now that highlighted him after the game and how he's really just hasn't even done a whole lot on offense yet. That's probably going to come, but he makes an impact on defense and certainly makes an impact on special teams as well. We continue Plays of the Week with Kiski area, and trailing at the half, the Cavaliers staged a third quarter surge propelled by Carson Heinley and Avon Shirley. Their first of two touchdown connections got Kiski area right back in the game, with Dave Franzak and Brian Brzezinski painting the picture.
This time for the Cavaliers. Looking to throw as Heinley blitzes coming up the middle. Has a man streaking, caught, touchdown. Avon Shirley, 44 yards from Carson Heinley, and the Cavaliers get back on the board.
Yeah, certainly a big play, in the game. Norwin played well defensively, but a couple of big pass plays for Carson Heinley, who continues to do it, breaking in another new wide receiver after, again, you mentioned earlier Bart and Isaiah Gonzalez, and those guys last year were really good wideouts for him. But Heinley continues to show, ever since he broke in as a JV, then varsity quarterback, that he's pretty darn good.
Yeah, and I wonder what nickname Sam Albert has given Avon Shirley at this point, because he's got nicknames for everyone.
It's not
Certainly
Stick, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he's a guy that deserves a nickname with what he's doing at the receiver position. We stay in that same game for Plays of the Week, and we look at the Norwin perspective, as the night ultimately belonged to the Knights, though it was the running game that led the way for Norwin. A second quarter score by Giovanni Rotroff pulled Norwin even, with Dave and Brian again providing the audio.
3rd and 6 for Norwin. And off goes the Rotroff up the middle, lowers the boom, lunges forward, touchdown, Norwin.
And you know what? That's what that kid brings. And not only I got to say this, what Norwin does a nice job of is they rotate through 3 backs, so all 3 backs at some time or another are fresh. And that's just a epitome right there of fresh legs.
once again, Sean, not to keep beating a dead horse, but to get that running game on track and to use a stable of running backs to go along with someone that you know can put the ball in the air and have a lot of success doing it in Tristan Tavares. Huge for Norwin. Hopefully that will continue into the future. We'll see. But so far, so good for that Norwin running game.
Do you have horses on your mind? You said horse and stable.
Did I say stable too? Yeah, I think so. I was thinking about actually getting into maybe horse racing. You think I could do that?
As a jockey?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you do very well.
I mean, I'm wearing this hat. I got to get like a different hat, I think.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe we can chronicle
cowboy
that,
hat or something. I don't know. What do they wear?
The next few weeks as your journey takes you to.
Hey, I heard the Kentucky Derby is like the best party ever. I've never actually been there, but I heard it's a great event.
And you want to not just be there, you want to be competing.
I do. I want to race horses, yes.
Yeah, well,
that's my
aim for the stars, buddy. I think you got big things in front of you. Speaking of which, we'll wrap up Plays of the Week with a guy who has certainly been doing some big things this year, and that's Jeannette's Jace Powell. He's established himself as one of the most electric players in Westmoreland County, and he showed that once again on a punt return against Apollo Ridge that extended the Jayhawks' lead in the opening quarter. Brent Wiggum and Anthony D'Annunzio detailed the big play on special teams.
For the Jayhawks as far as field position is concerned. This punt, Jace going to be pushed back again. Fields it at the 30, steps away from the first tackler, now across the 40, going to be spun down, spins out of it, midfield, 40, he needs a block, gets it, and he is going to be sprung. Jace Powell all the way home, punt return for a touchdown, and boy, did that momentum switch.
Wow, that penalty was so crucial. You talked about the penalties that Apollo Ridge committed last week. They've committed some tonight, and this one was deadly in the form of Jace Powell taking it all the way into the end zone.
What an amazing start for Jace Powell. Wins Player of the Week last week. Another massive performance this week to go along with Kymon'e Brown for Jeannette. And, you know, sometimes I kind of think of Samir Crosby over at Greensburg Central Catholic. These three guys were teammates when they were younger before Samir transferred to GCC. So a lot of talent, just so much continuing to pour out of Jeannette. And he's just so fun to watch Jace and Kymon'e do their thing.
Yeah, some really special players there. And, you know, again, depth-wise, I don't know if they're quite where they were when they were winning championships, but high-end skill-wise, I think Jeannette, you know, this team could stack up against some of the good ones we've seen over the past decade or so. Jace Powell certainly a big part of that. That'll do it for Plays of the Week. We will step aside briefly, but when we return, I will talk to the Greensburg Salem head coach, Ty George, as his team is off to a 2-0 start here in 2024. That's up next right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
State Representative Mike Reese was a great advocate for the kids in our community. He felt athletics were a vital tool in raising healthy, happy kids. The Mike Reese Memorial Fund offers grants to local youth athletic organizations so that every kid has a chance to play. Funding is available for new equipment, registration fee offset, facility improvements, and more. Visit MikeReeseMemorialFund.com to apply.
Are you ready to move forward? Seton Hill University has the degree programs, the resources, and the strong community you need to keep moving in the right direction. Focused on welcoming, learning, serving, and celebrating. With over 100 years of success educating students to be fit for the world, we know that everyone's way forward looks different. Find your forward at Seton Hill University.
Welcome back to Westmoreland on the Gridiron here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Sean Myers now joined by the second-year head coach of the Greensburg Salem Golden Lions, Ty George. And Ty, first off, congrats on a 2-0 start. I know it's got to be very exciting. You have already matched last year's win total, and certainly seems like sooner rather than later, the Golden Lions are going to surpass their win total from a year ago. What have you seen as the biggest difference this year, your second year, and for many of these players, their second year starting, as opposed to where you were at this time a year ago?
Yeah, Sean, thanks so much for having me. The kids have done a great job of just having confidence and, just putting in a ton of time and work in the offseason. I think this stems all the way back to December when we got back in the weight room and we really committed to that as a team, and then got into some spring ball stuff and then into our summer and then HEDAC and camp, and how fast it goes once it gets rolling. And the kids have been consistent with their attendance and their effort, and I think you do that over time enough, you start to feel confident in what you're doing, and I think now it's translating into play on the field and win. So just been super proud of their work and effort and their confidence that's gotten us to this point.
And it wasn't just a win last week. It was a very impressive win against Ligonier Valley. Golden Lions 43-14 victors. What in particular stood out about your team's effort against the Rams?
I think we just competed in all three phases of the game. You look back on it and, we had some key defensive stops. We were able to take some drives and finish them with touchdowns. I think we only had to punt once or twice, which was great. We had a couple good kickoff returns. So, you do all three phases of the game and you're able to have some success. In those categories, you have a pretty good chance to win. So I was pleased with how we competed in all three phases.
We've known that Dom Rosensteel is a guy who was getting a lot of attention during the offseason. And of course, anytime you have a quarterback battle, that seems to make headlines, especially when it's between brothers. But you returned some really good running backs, and Kai Bruno had a monster performance in that win. Talk about what he's been able to do and how the running game has been a major asset.
Yeah, Kai's done a great job for us early on in the year here, with him playing both sides of the ball, for him to, be safety for us and then take reps at the running back position, for him to run the way he has been great. And Brady Smith for us as well. He's done a phenomenal job. We really think we have a good 1-2 punch there with them. Whenever either of them have the ball, they have their own unique running style, and I think it really bodes well for our team. So the run game has been a huge plus, and then the guys up front blocking for him and covering him for, obviously. So it's been a great start with the run game.
We mentioned Bruno contributing defensively as well, and I know John Jablonowski's a tough guy to try to slow down, but other than a couple of big plays, it seems like your defense has been pretty good this year. What has been key to the success on that side of the football, and who are some guys that have really stepped up defensively?
I think for us defensively, we kind of went back to some fundamental things, and that's, again, was starting in our summer, just with some of the forms and techniques with tackling, getting aligned properly, some coverages, and I think the kids really bought into that early on. For us defensively, up front, it all starts there. We have four great guys with Eddie Johnson, Azzy Franklin, Cole Savage, and Isaiah Stillwagon. They've really man the fronts for us, and then we have some great linebackers and Anthony Matthews and Max Topper, and then we returned all of our secondary with Keegan Young, Dom Rosensteel, Kai Bruno, and Tyrese Lewis. So we got some kids who have experience in all those positions and played a ton for us last year. So I think the combination of their experience and some of those fundamental things have really helped us.
I talked to so many different coaches, and when we come up to the topic of goals for the year, usually it centers around making the playoffs. These two wins are not going to help your postseason bid necessarily, but it seems like they're really important for a program that needs to stack some wins together. So what were the goals this year, and how much do getting consecutive wins to start the season help trying to accomplish those ultimate goals?
When we finished last year, I told the kids, we got to set some goals and things we want to try to accomplish that'll drive our off season. And, two of the things we came up with were having a winning record and make the playoffs. Greensburg Salem football hasn't made the playoffs in about 5 years, and it's been around 12 or 13 years since they've had a winning record. So, for us, those are things that we've set out to try and accomplish. And like I told them, it's going to take a lot of steps along the way to get those things done. But, these wins early on, it doesn't necessarily help us with the playoff race, but it boosts confidence and it kind of gives the kids some ability to see like, hey, all this work and time and effort that you've put in, it's paying off. So those wins early on will hopefully help us so we have that kind of juice and energy when we get down the line come playoff time.
I'm guessing you and the coaches probably stay relatively even-keeled, but for the players, especially the ones who went through the hard times last year, has there been a lot of excitement and celebration, or is it more so this was expected, we don't want to get too high because then, you could suffer a greater fall, I guess, if you get up a little too high?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of one of those things where it's a little bit of both. And I tell them, like, winning high school football games is hard. I don't care what level, what classification. It's a very difficult thing to do. So when you do it, you should enjoy it. You should celebrate it. But it's something too where, when we come in for film the next day on Saturdays, we're right back to work. So you want them to enjoy it. You want them to embrace and be excited that we're winning football games. But at the same time, stay consistent, stay focused, because it is a long season. You have 10 full weeks and you have to compete each and every week if you want to get to where you want to get to. So a healthy balance of both is how we approach it.
Is there any truth to the rumor that one of the biggest factors in the 2 early season victories was the fact that you got a pep talk from my colleague at the Fan, Donnie Football, aka Donnie Chedrick, when he played for the Golden Lions?
Donnie did stop by, man. He stopped by and he spoke to the guys, which was awesome, to be able to have somebody come in and speak to the team and of alumni from not too long ago. It was great to see him talk to the kids. And it's just great to have guys that come back and want to, still be a part of what we do and see what goes on. So super appreciative and thankful for Donnie to come and stop by and say hi to the guys, and great to see him.
Well, it's one of those things where very few teams in Western Pennsylvania have the tradition, have the heritage of Greensburg, Salem. But for the guys, maybe 15, 16 years old, they didn't see some of those great teams when they were growing up. So is it important to bring back people who, maybe a decade or so ago were part of the great tradition of the Golden Lions?
Absolutely. And, you look at it, this upcoming game here with Valley, we have it's a 20-year anniversary of the team that won the conference in 2004. And, I look at it like these kids weren't even born when that was going on. So they have to realize, like, Greensburg Salem has won a lot of football games, before they've been a part of the team. And for them to get to see that history and then realize, hey, we can make our own history here. We can be one of those teams that gets to come back in 20 years and celebrate. And I think it's one of those things where them being a part of it and them getting to see it happens, I think they enjoy that. And I think it gives them something to look forward to, that, hey, maybe this could be us and this could be our group one day.
You mentioned the home showdown against the Valley Vikings. They are 0-2, but one thing we've seen is that they can put up some points. They put up 36 in their loss most recently against Riverview. What stands out about Valley, and what challenges do they present to you?
Their kids play hard. They have some athletic kids that play both sides of the ball for them, and they compete and they get after it. They're never down and out. You look at their last game, and they didn't quit. They played and they almost had a comeback win at the end. So hats off to them and their work effort and just how they approach day-to-day tasks and games. And I really do think that they're going to have a successful season. So we're looking forward to seeing how we match up against them.
I know that once you get to the conference, obviously that's going to be your focus at that point. But I would imagine you can't help but at least look at some of the scores for the other teams that compete in the interstate. Seems like so far it's been a lot of success. We saw Mount Pleasant win a thriller recently. Obviously, Southmoreland's off to a good start. The Yawk Cougars are 2-0 this season, and everyone knows EF as well. So do you pay attention to that stuff, and how far ahead do you look in terms of evaluating how the other teams are doing?
For us, the biggest thing is the conference play. That's when the level of competition really ramps up. And, you see the score from, these non-conference games, and you see who's winning and losing. But, you don't know who's playing who or how this team is or that team is, especially with the reclassification and alignment this year. So, we try to stay focused on what we're doing and just keep taking it 1 week at a time. And, we'll definitely get to see a ton of them, obviously, as the season progresses. So it's something that you notice, but, you don't, bank on it for sure.
Lastly, I know that each and every year a team has its own unique identity. So second year for you as the head coach, what do you love most about the 2024 version of the Greensburg Salem Golden Lions?
I'll tell you what, it truly is a fun group of kids to be around. They come to practice every day. They're excited to be there. They have fun. But the thing I love most with this group is, especially our seniors, they've really bought into, hey, this is our last year and we want to leave this program better than we found it. And they want to go out the right way. They want to go out winners, and they're trying to lead by example for the classes underneath them. So I'm really excited with how they're trying to change the culture and the makeup of Greensburg Salem football. And, I'm looking forward to see what we can do throughout the course of the year under their leadership and guidance. So it's been great to see kind of the 180 from last year to this year. And it's a credit to them and all the work and effort they've put in.
Well, Ty, certainly you deserve some of that credit as well. Congrats on the 2-0 start, and hopefully you can keep it up this Friday and beyond.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate it.
That's Ty George, the head coach of Greensburg Salem. We'll take a quick break and continue with more right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
The Volkswagen Savvy Summer Sales Event is going on now at Sendell VW in Greensburg. Now is the time to buy. Qualified customers can get 0.9% APR financing for up to 60 months or up to $5,000 in total savings on a 2024 Volkswagen Atlas with room for 7 or a 5-passenger Atlas Cross Sport. Now during the Volkswagen Savvy Summer Sales Event at Sendell VW, Route 30 in Greensburg. SendellVW.com. We would love to meet you.
Welcome back to Westmoreland on the Gridiron each and every Wednesday at 7 p.m. right here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. And we thank Ty George, the head coach for the Golden Lions. Now, Flick, did you broadcast any of his games when he was in high school? I know you certainly did when he was playing collegiately.
Yep, when he was at Hempfield at quarterback there. And then when he went to Seton Hill, he was initially a tight end and then got moved to receiver. Maybe I have that backwards. He was a receiver and then got moved to tight end. Either way, he was catching the football, but just a great leader, and you kind of knew he was going to be a coach at some point. And the fact that he is, in Westmoreland County is pretty cool, and it's great to work with him for sure. But I remember when he was playing for Rich Bowen in Hempfield for sure.
And there's so many cool ties between Hempfield, Greensburg, Salem.
No pun intended. Yeah.
Yes. And Seton Hill. I mean, we have seen so many guys from those two schools go to Seton Hill. You mentioned the current coach for Greensburg Salem played at Seton Hill. His predecessor at Greensburg Salem became an assistant coach at Seton Hill, and Dave Kiefer. So, and you mentioned he played for Rich Bowen when now Rich is on his staff at Greensburg Salem. So some really cool ties there locally in the Greensburg area. And we always enjoy talking to Ty, of course. That is the first interview. The second one will be upcoming momentarily. It'll be with another Jeannette Jayhawk. And Flick, once again, the Jayhawks faithful, loud and proud, speaking and letting their voice be heard via the vote.
I'm telling you what, man. Now, there's been people, even in that first week of voting, that say, hey, maybe you guys should have like a small school, big school player of the week. And I just don't like that. I mean, Westmoreland County is a big area with, 17 schools, but I just like having one player of the week that everybody has a chance to vote for. And the small school, big school argument has not held up the first couple of weeks because the Jeannette Jayhawks, the small single A school that they are, certainly the community has really gotten behind their player of the week nominees. So we had Jace Powell last week, Kymon'e Brown this week. Congratulations to Kymon'e again. Continues to do what he does. Obviously, he does it on the basketball court as well. But with those 3 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns last week, the massive victory for the Jayhawks over Apollo Ridge. But we also want to congratulate our other nominees. How about Jack Weissar, someone that we haven't had as a nominee in the past, had 10 catches for 130 yards. If you had him on your fantasy team, you're smiling right now for sure, especially if it's a point per reception league. Sorry, Sean, we had our draft this week. I'm focused on fantasy now. But congratulations to Jack. Elliot Primus, his first ever nominee. We saw him during our training camp visit. 6 catches, 127 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also had a rushing touchdown in Southmoreland's victory over EA. And, of course, Samir Crosby. The one thing we haven't mentioned, Sean, about Samir Crosby was that one-handed interception that he made in their game against Mount Pleasant. We're going to take a look at the video here. I mean, check this out, man. Oh, that is unbelievable. Just went up with one hand, pulled it back down. And so he does it on offense and defense. Just a tremendous performance by him once again. And, of course, Kyle Dupil, someone had a front row seat to watch last week, just ran with anger and that energy that he always does. So congratulations to all the nominees and, of course, to Kymon'e Brown.
Yeah, and that interception by Crosby, as good as that was, and it was awesome, it wasn't even the best from a guy who plays in Western Pennsylvania.
Were you going to say
weekend.
Something about Robert Morris, maybe?
Yes, and Rob Carter Jr., who had legitimately one of the best interceptions in the history of football, I think.
I saw that. That was pretty great.
Yeah, I'm not even exaggerating. So maybe a couple years down the road, we'll see Samir Crosby making an interception like that collegiately, and he'll get all over social media and national coverage and stuff like that. But these guys deserve coverage, so we're doing our best to give it to him. And that will continue in our next segment because Flick will be talking to Kymon'e Brown of the Jeannette Jayhawks. That's as we continue right here on WSN's Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
Come to D'Annunzio's in Latrobe at the Arnold Palmer Regional Airport and experience our Sunset Terrace overlooking the runway. Enjoy the unique, peaceful vistas from the terrace while you have lunch or dinner. You even have a great opportunity to see flight traffic coming into and flying out of the airport. D'Annunzio's also has entertainment on the Sunset Terrace every Friday night, weather permitting, from 6 to 9. Give D'Annunzio's Latrobe a call today to book your reservation for the Sunset Terrace.
Welcome back to Westmoreland on the Gridiron here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. And now it is time to talk with our Week 1 Westmoreland Sports Network Player of the Week. He's Kymon'e Brown, a junior from Jeannette, back-to-back weeks for the Hawks, Player of the Week. And big week certainly for Kymon'e Brown last Friday against Apollo Ridge. He completed 4 of 7 passes for 100 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also ran for 162 and 2 touchdowns. Kymon'e, thank you so much for taking some time. You're following your cousin. Do you think you're going to do a better job than Jace did last week?
With the interview?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't really get to watch it, but I think he did great. He's great at everything, for real. He's great at everything.
He did do a great job, and certainly his punt return was electric last week as well. But as I mentioned, back-to-back Jayhawks to start out the 2024 season being voted as our Player of the Week. Why do you think that is?
I mean, it's just like we put in a lot of work. We put in a lot of work that people don't see. Like, me and him always go to the football field, get our connection right. We take all the other receivers, the line. We get everybody to go up to the field in the summertime. We always put a lot of work in, thanks to the coaches for giving us opportunities to be able to go lift whenever we want with them and just bond with each other. So we're all close, and it just helps us out a lot.
Well, the Jayhawks gotten off to a great start this year as well. 2-0, a big win over Apollo Ridge, and I mentioned the 5 touchdown performance by you. What do you think the key was to maybe the team's success and then your success as well on Friday?
The team's success, our success was we would watch a lot of film, and we saw their tendencies. They like to run the ball, get the ball. They like to throw the out routes, comebacks. So we knew it was coming, and we just had to be able to take what they were given. And we just went out there. We took what they gave us. They were throwing short passes, so we knew that we just had to come downfield, make some plays.
And how about from an offensive standpoint? What do you think kind of went on well there for you to have the monster game that you did?
Just the offensive line, and the receivers, just the way they run their routes and the way they block up front, it helps us win a lot of games. It helps us win every game. Without our line, I can't do what I can do without the line, and I can't do what I can do without the receivers. So I just need them. We all need each other. We're just a great team.
Yeah, very well said. So 5 touchdowns. Was there a touchdown that stuck out to you that you could say was your favorite, and can you kind of take us through it?
My favorite touchdown was it was my so I had a strip, I took the ball from somebody and I ran to the house, but it got called back. But that was my favorite touchdown. But besides that, I just love throwing my receivers the ball. Love throwing Jace the ball, throw it past the Sunder. So I really love all my touchdowns, for real. It just, anytime I can see my teammates happy, I'm happy.
Now, last year you played wide out, and certainly you're still there at times, but you've been splitting time at quarterback with Marcus McGowan. You guys split reps in that first game against Mount Pleasant. Last week, it was all you. So kind of talk about what the coaches have told you what to expect week in and week out. I mean, is it kind of a hot hand thing, or, is Marcus still going to be expected to play there? Kind of what is going on right now and what the coaches have told you at the quarterback position for you guys?
They just they give us a game plan. We get a game plan on Monday. We run the plays that we're gonna run throughout the week, and we just have a game plan. And that was the game plan that had me at quarterback the whole game. So I don't know what the game. Well, I can't tell you the game plan for this week, but that was the game plan last week. We just went out there, put me out there, and just let me try to control the game a little more from a higher standpoint.
Kymon'e, you're already seasoned veteran with the media. I think Coach Pallone loves it. I love it too. That's all right. You don't need to give us the game plan. We'll see how it plays out this week at Ligonier Valley. But talk about how you and Marcus work together in the quarterback room and, what you guys see on the field. I'm sure you're constantly talking with one another during the game.
He's my little cousin, so it's great. We talk all the time. If I see him doing something that I like, if we're not playing our foot, he'll tell me, I'll tell him. We see what we mess up at as a quarterback core, and a quarterback group, and we just fix each other. So like today, I was bringing the ball back too much. He told me about it, and he just helps me. He's just there for me. We compete. All we want to do is throw perfect balls every day at practice. We want to throw perfect balls, perfect spiral, perfect balls every time. So we just go in there and we just compete against each other and let the coaches decide for real.
What would you say your best qualities are as a quarterback? Man, it has to give defenses fits to know that, you can get out of the pocket quick, you can tuck it and run like you did last week. But what do you think your best qualities are?
My best quality is probably feeling the presence of other people, because I just feel the presence of the defense when the pockets collide, and I can feel that. And I just what else would I say? I would say probably just being able to run the ball. I'm super fast, so if I get out the pocket, I'm gonna get it first down usually, and maybe go off for a 40 to 50-yard run. So that's probably my biggest quality. And I can throw the ball really well.
Well, those are some great qualities to have, man. That's for sure. And we've seen those qualities so far this year. Every time I have a Jayhawk on, I have to ask what it's like and what it means to you to play for Jeannette football and all the tradition that you guys have there.
That's the one thing we talk about every day. We coaches, they preach it. You're playing for more than just yourself and just for each other. You're playing for Jeannette. You're playing for the Jayhawks. The Jayhawks been a special program in Whitfield for many years, since the 1900s. So we just want to carry that legacy on. We want to go out there in every game. We want to dominate and win as a team, as a brotherhood, as a family. So we just go out there and know what we're playing for. That's why we have a shirt protected the tradition. Like, we just have a shirt. We have a shirt, gear, everything. We always want to protect the tradition. Like, that's our biggest thing. We want to go out there and dominate every game just to carry on the legacy.
I'm getting fired up. I'm ready to play now, man. This is great. What do you enjoy most about playing football, Kymon'e?
What do I enjoy most? Friday nights. It's just you just know when it's a Friday. You just wake up in the morning. You wake up feeling so good. You get out of bed, you have a great day every Friday. And just when the lights come on, you just turn into a different person. Just turn into a whole different man. And just go out there and you just want to go out there and just play for like each other. Like, everything's about the team. Like, you want to go out there and dominate with each other. That's the happiest thing on earth, is just going out there and playing with your best friends in high school and just going out there and winning.
I love it. Now, you have quite a family atmosphere. I know they're all your brothers, right? But you mentioned your cousin Jace, Marcus, your uncle Fat Man, Darius Brown is a coach as well. What's it like to have that family atmosphere at Jeannette? Not only, again, your brothers as teammates, but also your blood there.
It's different, because we have that mode. Like, we talk family at one point, then he has to get into that coach mode. So you gotta, like, he's telling me to bring it every day. Like, he pushing me hard. We go to the beach, we work out. We work at the field. He's telling us what we need to improve on, how we need to do this, how we need to do that, because he played before us and he knows a lot about the game. And then Jace, he's not. I don't think he's human. The things he just does on the football field is just amazing. He amazes me. Makes me proud.
No doubt about it. Kymon'e, do you have college plans? I know you're a junior. You don't have to, put those in stone yet, but would you like to play at the next level? And do you have any idea where you'd like to go, or even what you'd like to maybe major in?
I don't know what I like to major in, but I'm good at math. But I really love basketball. I love basketball. Like, I would go play basketball anywhere. But, like, if I get a better opportunity for football, then I'll play football too. So I love both games. I just have a certain different, like, a type of love for basketball. I don't understand it, but I just love basketball. But I will always play football. Like, whatever gives me the best opportunities in life to go pro, I would do either. I would do football, basketball, baseball, or track. It doesn't, any sport.
Well, that's great. I'm sure Coach Batts has a smile on his face hearing you say that. But you have two really good coaches to help you along the way with Coach Pallone and Coach Batts if you do elect to play either football or basketball in college. One final thing for you, man. What do you guys have to do well this week against Ligonier Valley? Maybe some of the things that they do and what you need to do well to come away with a win and go 3-0.
We just need to be we need to be disciplined, and we need to they have a big tall dude that number 7. He's big tall. He's probably like 6'5", 6'6". We need to stop him on the red zone and throw him the ball, a little fade ball. We need to stop that. We just need to be disciplined on defense and make stops. We make stops, we win the game. We got a lot of explosive guys on offense. Got a lot of explosive guys. Eli Jones, Nick Mendoza, Xavier Odoricio, Noah Sunder. We got a lot of explosive guys. On the defense, McAllister, Trevor, Magi. We got Lonnie Green, Carmine Dianantis on the offensive line. We just have a lot of explosive players. Nick Stuchel, Wyatt. Like, I can name everybody on the team. We just have a great team. We have a great bond together. It's something that I just love being a part of. I just love being a part of it.
Good stuff, man. Hey, fantastic job this interview. I'm sure we're going to talk again soon. You did a great job with Sean as well with our training camp preview. So good luck. Good luck up there at Weller Field and Ligonier. Go get another win. And again, we'll hopefully talk to you again this year.
Thank you.
That is Kymon'e. Absolutely, man. That is Kymon'e Brown. Our Week 1 Westmoreland Sports Network Player of the Week is voted on by you, the fans. And coming up next, we will preview Week 2 games, including Jeannette and Ligonier, right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
Drive like a champion with Bowser Chevrolet of Monroeville. You're always on the winning team with Bowser Chevrolet. Visit BowserChevrolet.com 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and get the power of Bowser in your hands. Customize your payments, apply for financing, get a value for your trade and more with the Bowser Express Store. See the full lineup of Chevy cars, trucks, and SUVs at BowserChevrolet.com. Bowser Chevrolet, where the power of Bowser is yours.
The Pulse of Western Pennsylvania is in very good hands. It's a system of healthcare whose hospitals have earned some of medicine's most prestigious honors, like the top 10% in the country for specialty cardiac care, a heart surgery program ranked in the top 2% nationwide, and cited as high-performing for heart bypass, heart failure, and heart attack. The Pulse of Western Pennsylvania is indeed in very good hands at Independence Health System. Expert care here.
Back here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron, we appreciate Kymon'e Brown of Jeannette taking the time to talk to us. Of course, Ty George from Greensburg, Salem, a little bit earlier, but final segment, and that means a look ahead at the Week 2 schedule, the third game for the vast majority of our Westmoreland County teams. At some point, do you think we could just get back to numbers making sense?
No, because now college football is going to Week 0, or at least Division 2 did. Seton Hill's opener last week was
Division 1
Week
thing
0.
too.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
apparently not. No. God forbid we just say Week 10.
This past weekend for college football, I guess, was just Week 1. But teams like Florida State, for instance, that played the previous week, that was Week 0.
That was Week 0.
Yes. Anyway, let's not worry about that. Let's worry about this great slate of games that we have, both with our coverage on WSN and all across Westmoreland County as well. And we'll start with two Westmoreland County teams who are 2-0. Something's got to give. Greater Latrobe at Norwin. We will have video coverage of this one on Friday. I think Greater Latrobe being 2-0, probably expected. Norwin, not so much, but it creates a really fun matchup. And another big test for Greater Latrobe. They were challenged last week by Plum. Norwin was challenged by Kiski-Arias. It's two teams that have already scored some good wins this season, and it makes for a great storyline. I think this is probably the biggest game Westmoreland County has to offer this week.
Yeah, Plum really hung in there against Latrobe last week. I think it was a game maybe where Latrobe kind of controlled it, but they did hang in there for sure. And then, you look at Norwin and Kiski, that game was in the balance at one point. So I think both teams certainly riding high, but this should just be a great matchup. And again, two Westmoreland County teams, local teams that are doing really well, this year. Obviously, Latrobe has turned it around the last couple of years, and now Norwin coming in with a 2-0 record. I know it's just a non-conference game, but these kids are going to be laying it all on the line on Friday night, trying desperately to get a win. And again, it excites me even more to think about what Big East play is going to be like this year. Again, with Latrobe and Woodland Hills and Penn Trafford and Franklin Regional and Gateway and all the teams. And then for Norwin, I mean, this would be a massive victory, again, with 6A play still to come. So I think there's a lot on the line in this game, even though it's non-conference.
Yeah, and for Greater Latrobe, people say this could be a team that maybe makes a championship in 5A. Well, I think if that's the case, then they're going to have to win games like this. And for the Knights, I think they have a real argument right now. They're the third best team in 6A. Now, saying that now doesn't really matter because they're going to have to go out and prove it. No one's expecting them to knock off Pittsburgh Central Catholic or NA at this point, but 4 teams make the playoffs. I think at this juncture right now, they are pretty squarely in that top 4 and should be a playoff team. And, if they knock off Greater Latrobe, I think that would certainly solidify that notion as well. Well, how about this for a rematch from a few years ago? Flick, do you remember back when it was called Heinz Field, Acrisure Stadium? You and I were down there. Moon and Penn Trafford came down to a field goal just before the buzzer.
Yeah, so I do remember that for
this time in Harrison City. Should be a good matchup. I don't know that these teams are the same caliber of where they were a few years ago when they met in 2021, but still a fun matchup, certainly. And I know for the people who are still around for Moon, they want to get a little bit of vengeance. For the Warriors, they want to win their second straight.
Yeah, that's what they're concentrating on. And I know we didn't talk a whole lot about the game, Sean, but as you were there calling it, it was, I think, so important for Penn Trafford to get that passing game on track and the way that Johnny Louver looked. And again, Weissar came out and played super, super good. And, you're going to depend on him now probably to put up some big numbers after he did on Friday against Mount Lebanon. The defense played fairly well. So I think that was a big win. Again, just a non-conference win, but one that kind of gets Penn Trafford right. And, going into tonight's game against another good non-conference opponent.
Another game that we will have video
Why'd I say
coverage.
Tonight, by the way? Friday night.
It's okay.
My gosh. Okay.
Yeah, it happens.
People understood what I meant, I think.
One of these
Penn
days
Trafford's not playing on Wednesday. They're playing Friday.
Yes, that's correct. Another game that we will have coverage of, Deer Lakes, the Lancers 2-0 against Dairy Area, which is 1-1. Deer Lakes really has been impressive. I thought they might take some steps back after they lost that prolific quarterback in Burke, but they're a good program right now. So they certainly riding high. It will be a stiff test indeed for the Trojans. Franklin Regional at Upper St. Clair. A lot of people think that the Panthers could be one of the top teams in Class 5A this year. So far, I think you should be able to say the same thing about Franklin Regional. So a couple of teams with identical 2-0 marks do battle in that one. Another Westmoreland County clash. Hempfield area travels to Kiski area. We just saw the Knights go in there and win against the Cavaliers. Now the Spartans will look to do the same as they are in pursuit of their first win of 2024. Cavaliers are 1-1. Well, we didn't get Aliquippa, Bell Vernon, but hopefully we're going to get Central Valley, Bell Vernon, as this should be a marquee matchup. Ignore the 0-2 record for Central Valley because it is a program that I think maybe has the best winning percentage in WPIAL history. If not number one, they're certainly in the top 5. Now, they've only been around about 15 years, but year in and year out, Coach Lyons has a dominant program. They're really, really good. So the Leopards will get a stiff test. And again, they're going to be behind the 8 ball. They're playing a Central Valley Warriors team that has played 2 games already. Remember, the Leopards technically have not played a game yet. So that's certainly one that I think a lot of people will be paying attention to on Friday night. Borough at Mount Pleasant, another Westmoreland County matchup. These teams played in the playoffs not that long ago. Remember, Sean Lyotta will return to the sidelines for the Buccaneers as they look to score their first victory in 2024. I talked about it with Coach Ty George. Will his team go to 3-0? Well, they're going to have a good opportunity as Greensburg Salem host Valley. The Vikings have been competitive this year. Certainly, they look to be improved. They can put up some points, but they are 0-2. Golden Lions are 2-0. Southmoreland is also 2-0. The Scotties head on the road to play Laurel Highlands. We'll see if the freshman Anthony Smith continues his ascension. He's been impressive so far. The entire Southmoreland offense has been impressive in 2024. Well, maybe the Cougars move to 3-0 as well. Certainly Benny Hoffer and crew hope so as they welcome a lowly Ringgold team. The Rams are 0-2 this season. Real opportunity for the Cougars to get their third win and surpass last year's win total. Jeannette at Ligonier Valley. Jayhawks coming in 2-0. The Rams trying to bounce back after a lopsided loss last week against Greensburg Salem. I know Roger Beitel, you can kind of just tell from his post-game interview, he wasn't too happy, wanted to kind of right the ship, get back at it, and shift focus to the next task at hand. That is the Jayhawks. Of course, they have a big play threat in their own right to the Rams in John Jablonowski. Fun to see him against the likes of Powell and Brown on Friday night. Greensburg Central Catholic at Apollo Ridge, as the Centurions will make the trek to Owens Field. The Vikings are 0-2 on the campaign. Monessen at Best Center. The Greyhounds, the highest scoring team in the WPIAL through 2 weeks of play. And how about this? We got not one, but two college football games for Westmoreland County teams. Thursday night, the home opener, Seton Hill, as they welcome Ohio Dominican. So the Griffins, coming off of a loss in their week 0, will look to right the ship tomorrow at Offutt Field. Talking to John Bainbridge, he thought that they did some things well, but he said that Fairmont State was a really, really good team. So we'll see if the Griffins can bounce back. It will be the first game of the season for Ohio Dominican, so maybe already playing a game will favor the Griffins a little bit.
Yeah, maybe they could take advantage of that. And yeah, you're right. I mean, Seton Hill had the lead in the first half against Fairmont State. I believe they were ahead 10-7, and then they went into the locker room at halftime trailing by, I believe it was a touchdown or by 6 points. And then second half, I mean, it was a disaster. Not to, I know Dan Day won't sugarcoat it. It was not good. So I'm sure they did some good things that they'll look at, and hopefully, like you said, they can take advantage of a Ohio Dominican team that has not played yet, and see if the Griffs can get back on the winning track on Thursday.
And St. Vincent opens its season playing on the road against Washington and Jefferson. That is on Saturday at 1 p.m. So that's the slate for week 2 of the high school football season, in addition to those college games. Flick, I know you always love the opportunity to talk about, all the other things that we have here on WSN. Of course, it's not just Friday nights with football games. There's a lot more that we have to offer, both on our website and with live broadcasts.
Well, there is, Sean, but before we get to that, sometimes you just leave it completely open-ended and don't lead me into anything. So I'm gonna kind of change the subject here for just a second.
I'll allow it.
Thank you. Just looking at, the schedule and just looking at the teams here, this has been a really, really good start for Westmoreland County, hasn't it? I mean, when you look at, again, Greensburg, Salem, and York 2-0, Norwin 2-0. Penn Trafford gets back on the winning track last week. Franklin Regional has been super impressive. Derry bounces back with a win last week against Freeport. Jeannette's been super impressive. Mount Pleasant could be 2-0 right now. GCC's offense has, been a juggernaut. And Bell Vernon's going to be okay. I mean, they're still going to have a good season regardless of what happened. Southmoreland's 2-0. So, I mean, I know it's still very early in the season. You have to consider sometimes who these teams have played. I mean, even Kiski and Hempfield. I thought Hempfield did some good things, and you have Dom Dietrich doing what he did. That has to excite them for the future. And then again, Kiski at 1-1, and they hung right with Norwin. So I don't know. I think at least early on, we'll see how these teams have staying power. If all of them do. But I think we see a ton of parity right now with Westmoreland County teams, which is really awesome, don't you think? I'm excited.
Yes, and I was going to say, I was trying to kind of rack my memory a little bit here. Several of these teams have a chance to tie or surpass last year's win total this week.
Right.
We mentioned, and we had all those coaches on for our kickoff show, and I kept going over, the notes and looking at the records. It felt like there was a lot of, now we had some really, really good teams last year. I'm not saying that wasn't the case. Obviously, we had a team that won a state title, but we also had a lot of teams that it felt like their record was like 2-8 last year. I don't know that we're going to have a lot of teams that finish with 2 wins this year. I think we're going to see Greensburg Salem improve upon that, probably even this week. I think we're going to see York improve upon that, probably this week. We're going to see Norwin, I think, surpass last year's win total. I would not be surprised if Hempfield area does the same, although they're playing in the highest classification. Obviously, it's not easy. So I think we're going to see a lot of teams that go beyond where they were a year ago. And you mentioned Kiski area. They move up. So many of these teams move up in classification, and it seems like so far it hasn't really hindered them. Now we'll see once the conference games really begin. But I think it is so far a season where the Westmoreland County teams look like, as a whole, probably better overall. Maybe not quite as top heavy, but I think that, from top to bottom, it's a higher caliber of football this year.
We should have talked about this at the beginning of the show, I think. But yeah, this was.
Well, the results will dictate this Friday. Maybe that's where we start next week.
Absolutely. And the teams will start beating up on each other as well, especially in, again, the Big East Conference, where there's a lot of Westmoreland teams, and then the Interstate as well in 3A. But yeah, don't forget, you can check out a lot of different things on our website. On Friday night, we have our scoreboard at the top of our homepage, or you can click on scores, where you can get up-to-date Westmoreland County high school football scores. Obviously, Sean does a great job putting together the preview that is on our website every Friday that breaks down every Westmoreland County high school football game. We have Recruiting Thursday every week that Jack Ridenauer puts together, our notebook every week too, and a whole lot more things. Check out our YouTube channel as well. If you happen to miss any of those camp previews, you can still go back and watch the ones that that we put together for everyone.
I think we're over 5,000 total views for those.
That's awesome. I'd love to hear that, man. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, people love it, because, and the great thing is everybody has hope when the season starts, right? And right now it's kind of come to fruition, as we just mentioned, for Westmoreland County teams. Everyone has that hope. They want to know, who the star players are going to be for their teams, what they're saying, what the kids are saying, what the coaches are saying. So if you happen to miss any of those, you can check them out on our YouTube channel.
And just to circle back from where we started tonight, because I'm sure there's some people who are wondering, you mentioned that there's going to be a different method for streaming this Friday. Does that affect how people end up accessing the broadcast whatsoever?
It does not, and that's something that I should have mentioned at the outset of the show. It absolutely does not. You can go to our website, westmorelandsports.com. There's an individual link for every game that is on YouTube. So, if you're clicking on the Dairy and Deer Lakes game, if you click on the link, it's going to take you right to that video on YouTube, that live streaming video on YouTube. Same with Penn Trafford and Moon, and the same with Norwin and Latrobe, those video broadcasts. And then our audio broadcast of Franklin Regional Upper St. Clair will still be on Meridix. Audio doesn't seem to be bothered by their issues. Unfortunately, the video does. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Again, it'll just be kind of like normal. It'll just take you to YouTube as opposed to our other platform.
Which, by the way, if you aren't already, you should probably be subscribed to our YouTube channel.
Absolutely,
there's a lot of good stuff
now that we're
there,
making people go to watch broadcasts there. Subscribe.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate Ty George and Kymon'e Brown of Greensburg, Salem, and Jeannette for joining us tonight. That'll do it for this edition of Westmoreland and Gridiron. Of course, Friday night, you got to tune in to all our great broadcasts. We will have even Seton Hill football tomorrow as well, and then plenty more in the upcoming weeks. But you know where to catch us each and every week. Wednesday at 7 p.m. It'll be right here. For now, signing off, Sean Myers, Dan Flicking, and we'll catch you next week on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.